The DEI initiatives that a lot of large corporate, high-profile corporations put into practice years ago are slowly being rolled back across the board, with most recently Ford themselves pulling the plug. Ford joins list of companies walking back DEI policies. Ford Motor is the latest company to walk back some of its commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. The automaker has taken a fresh look at its DEI policies and practices over the past year to take into account the evolving external and legal environments related to political and social issues, according to an internal communication that was shared with the global Ford employees and posted on X on Wednesday by an anti-DEI activist. Ford confirmed the letter was authentic and said it had no additional comment on the matter. Now, the statement that Ford sent internally was posted on Twitter by this guy, Robbie Starbuck, and I'm just going to summarize the really important parts of it because it's pretty long, but very first, I have to show you how funny this first paragraph. It says, for more than a century, Ford has been a pioneer in providing opportunities to people around the world of all races, genders, and backgrounds. This enduring promises traces back to the Great Migration and the $5 workday, and still guides us into the future. And I just have to point out how wild that is, because this is the Wikipedia article for Henry Ford, who was famously the creator of Ford, and also he had a lot of issues, but he was also famously really racist, very specifically anti-Semitic. Ford was a conspiracy theorist who drew long tradition of false allegations against the Jews. Ford claimed that Jewish internationalism posed a threat to traditional American values, which he deeply believed were at risk in the modern world. Part of his racist and anti-Semitic legacy includes the funding of square dancing in American schools because he hated jazz and associated it with the creation of Jewish people. In 1920, Ford wrote, "If fans wish to know the trouble with American baseball, they have it in 3 words. Too much Jew." That is not particularly relevant to anything, but I just felt the need to point out that because that was less than 100 years ago, and here Ford is acting as if that never happened. So as for this statement, it's all just kind of corporate mumbo jumbo, but the really important thing is this last paragraph here. He says, Ford says, "We made the decision early this year to stop participating in external cultural surveys such as the Human Rights Campaign's Corporate Equality Index and various, quote, best places to work lists. We will continue to build a high-performance culture focused on what we deliver with aligned objectives, high standards and accountability, and, as importantly, how we deliver through excellence, focus, and collaboration. This includes an environment where all of us can do our best work anchored in respect and inclusion." Basically, this whole letter is saying that they're going to be just as diverse and inclusive as they were when they had DEI initiatives, but now they're not going to be following any kind of an intentional process or have a specific initiative about it with percentages of different minorities that they have to actually hire. And very importantly, they're not going to be participating in other third parties, companies' trackings of things that are DEI initiative related. And by itself, that is not that interesting because companies change all the time. Ford choosing to do one thing or another is really not that surprising. The surprising thing is that Ford is part of a much larger trend of companies getting rid of their DEI initiatives. As you can see here, a lot of high-level companies are doing it, like Harley-Davidson. Harley-Davidson drops diversity efforts after online pressure. Harley-Davidson is dropping some of its diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, according to a statement released on Monday on the social media site X. The motorcycle company said it stopped consulting with the Human Rights Campaign's metric for treatment of LGBTQ+ employees, and that its sponsorship decisions will now be determined by the company and foundation, which will focus on, quote, retaining our loyal riding community. "We do not have a DEI function today," said Harley-Davidson, and has not since April, according to the statement. But it's not just them. There are even more, as you can see here. Home improvement retailer Lowe's, latest U.S. firm to end some diversity policies, and this was actually just a couple of days ago. Home improvement retailer Lowe's has scrapped some of its diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI programs, becoming the latest U.S. firm to modify such policies meant to boost racial and ethnic representation. Lowe's will no longer participate in surveys for Human Rights Campaign, an advocacy group supporting transgender rights, and is also combining with various business resource groups to represent diverse employees into one umbrella organization. An internal memo obtained by Reuters on Monday said. The company will not be sponsoring or participating in community events such as parades, festivals, or fairs, and might also make additional changes to the policies over time, according to the memo, which was was confirmed by a company spokesperson. But it's not just those companies, there's also even more. Microsoft laid off its DEI team report. Microsoft has reportedly laid off the entirety of its diversity, equity, inclusion team, citing their lack of relevance in business operations. In an email viewed by Business Insider, a Microsoft team leader wrote, "True systems change work associated with DEI programs everywhere are no longer business critical or as smart as they were in 2020. The report says Microsoft eliminated the team due to, quote, changing business needs. But it's not just those companies. Tractor Supply also has done the same thing. Rural retailer Tractor Supply eliminates DEI roles, pride support, and carbon emission goals. Tractor Supply, a retailer chain that sells home improvement equipment, livestock, and agriculture supplies for farmers and pet owners, is eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion roles, withdrawing carbon emissions goals, and walking back support for the LGBTQ community as part of sweeping changes to environmental, social, and governance initiatives the company announced this week. The retailer said in a Thursday press release that it will no longer submit data to the Human Rights Campaign, an LGBTQ advocacy group. The company will also stop sponsoring pride festivals and voting campaigns, the release said. The company previously earned a perfect score on the Human Rights Campaign Foundation's 2022 Best Places to Work Corporate Equity Index. The announcement comes in the final days of Pride Month. So this is happening a lot, and it's happening everywhere. One company does it, and then that kind of gives permission to all the other companies that wanted to do it but were too scared of the negative PR. It gives them permission to do the same thing. Very similar to when Apple removed the headphone jack. Almost immediately, all the other companies that wanted to probably remove the headphone jack but were too scared to do it were able to do it and not really catch any flack for it. But of course, the real big question is, why? Companies exist to make money. And what money-making benefit does this decision have? And I think there are three big ones. The first is that there is just a lot of financial pressure to do this. You might agree with DEI initiatives, or you might disagree with DEI initiatives, but the fact is that there are millions of people, primarily leaning more conservative politically, that don't agree with DEI initiatives. And they are also, on top of that, willing to boycott these companies, and so those companies stand to lose a lot of customers and a lot of money. Now, businesses are not in the diversity business or the equity business or the equality business. They're in the money-making business, and if DEI is hurting their bottom line, then from their perspective, it has to go. DEI departments also don't actively bring in more money for companies because they're not selling a project or retaining consumers, so they're cutting them for those reasons as well. The second big reason is that DEI groups or teams or corporations or initiatives have become pretty common, and that commonality has made them kind of irrelevant. If one or two kind of larger companies did a DEI initiative back before they were super popular and everyone was doing them, they probably gained a lot of support, primarily from a more politically liberal-leaning audience. But once every company is doing it, then it's not really unique or worth talking about anymore because it's just another thing that everyone's doing. And so if it's no longer an advantage, you're actively paying teams or groups or people to do something that no longer monetarily benefits the company, and so they will get rid of it. The final big reason I think companies are doing this is because they quite simply just want to get out of politics. People are more willing than ever right now to boycott companies over political differences because of what they're sponsoring or representing or supporting, and because of how divided our politics has become. Companies stand to lose a lot of money by alienating those customers. 10 years ago, this might not have been an issue, but today it's having real impacts on their bottom line and by association on their stock price. And if you want an example, look no further than Target, which was pretty well boycotted by most people on the conservative side of the political spectrum. And as a result of that, they actually ended up losing money in the next 2 quarters and their stock price crashed. The bottom line is that DEI is no longer making companies money through things like good PR or marketability or political goodwill like it used to, and because of that, they're going to get rid of it. In fact, not only is it not helping them, but it's actually actively causing harm to the company through things like legal battles, political pressure, and the boycotts that we're seeing for the people that disagree with it. If it's costing a company money to do something that they don't actually actively and legally have to do, you can bet that they will get rid of it. And to be clear, companies have never cared about diversity anyway. They don't care about you or me or their employees or really anything aside from money. They only care about making money, making their share prices go up. And right now, what they're deciding is that the best thing to make their share prices go up is to remove their DEI initiatives. And so that's what's happening. Thanks for watching.